Good evening, everyone. Time is 6:33 on Tuesday, August 9, 2022. It's the Abington Conservation Commission meeting. First item is old business, SE 084-0555, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed by Jim Lambert, WP East Acquisitions LLC, located at 0 Summer Street. Peer reviewer sent over some more comments to Goddard, and they're working on those still. They didn't have everything ready for tonight's meeting, so they asked for a continuance to the 23rd of August. So you want to make a motion to continue?
I'll make a motion to continue SC 084-055 to the August 23rd meeting.
I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Next up, enforcement order, discussion, possible vote on the restoration plan located at 0 Hancock Street. Last, I believe it was Wednesday, Nicole sent over an electronic file of the restoration plan for the areas out in the woods at 0 Hancock Street. We got a plan set up here. Everybody had a chance to review the plan? Have comments?
Is the botanist coming tonight?
No, she couldn't make it tonight. She's gonna be at the next meeting, so I said, well, I told her, I said, we'll look at the plans, discuss it. That way, if we have any comments, we can get them back to her. That way she has 2 weeks to address any issues we might have.
It looks like Andrew sent an email.
Yeah, he sent me an email around 1:30 this afternoon, and I forwarded it to Tony. She sent it out for everyone. Colin, do you want a copy of it?
Sure.
Where they gave them all.
Nice.
I guess the first question I had is, what's the status of the survey?
That's also in your packet. Colin, you want to just get up and let us know where you're at with it?
Sure, yeah, so I've been calling.
Just get up here, just state your name and address.
Colin Hopland, 0 Hancock Street. Yeah, so I've been keeping Tony and Paul up to date. I think I called, 8 or 10 surveyors. Zero luck with that. Finally got the original guy to that we talked to with Nicole, that worked with Nicole, our scientist. He said, yeah, I'll put together a proposal for you. And I disappeared. I'm calling, emailing, texting, smoke signals, nothing. So he was gone, and I found another company that actually works with Goddard as well. And it's been going back and forth in email. And I sent them an email, which you should have too. So there's no timeline, but there's some progress there. At least I've got some progress going with these people. Mm-hmm. They're worried about the vegetation a little bit, but they said it's going to take a month after we get that started. But there's some progress there. It's just been tough. I mean, I'm hearing. I sent them, text messages to it. So it said to Tony too. Like, I would call a surveyor and they'd say, they hang up on me and say, but we are not even interested in taking on more work. People are saying they're 6 months out. It's crazy. So at least we have somebody now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hang on.
Yeah.
I have some comments, I'm sure everybody else does too, but the first one was I would like to see the wetland flags on the map. She referenced some in her report, and I couldn't figure out where they were because I don't have them. The flags should be on there.
Right.
She probably has something with the flags on it. She just didn't submit it, is my guess. Because I know she was doing GPS and getting it all in there. They must have the flags. It's just we need something with the numbers on it. Mm-hmm. My other comment was I thought that we had the 2 areas that we talked about that needed to be flagged and done. I thought those were supposed to be done. But when I read the report, it doesn't appear that they are doing them until they want to do them later and bring out heavy equipment, and kind of bothered me. So that's just a in general comment. don't quite understand why we have to bring out heavy equipment, but maybe I'm missing something, maybe one of you guys understand it better than I do. Because you've been out there and I have not seen the site.
I do remember going out there with Tim and Nicole and Andrew. And I remember when the other two new sites were found, he had just drilled in with an auger into the road. And she was kind of surprised that he came up with hydric soil. She did ask how deep he went, and I believe I put in my notes it was 10.5 inches. Because she had looked at the strata levels, layers, and, you know.
Just probably hadn't gone down that far.
Right, it didn't look like anything there appeared to be, you know, hydric type soil plants, so, he had just indicated that, if I remember correctly, she would need to go in and determine where that is and flag that as well.
That's what I understood, but what I read in here was that she.
I think he wanted excavation to go all at one time, to start with the
Work
furthest
their
away.
way from
and
area
work
number
back.
2, number
Right.
1, and then the other
Right.
2 areas that.
But I guess my comment is that we're putting the cart before the horse, like, shouldn't we know where the wetland is before we start bringing in heavy equipment? It's sort of, I've never excavated to find a
Right.
wetland. Sorry, guys, it's just, this is just, I mean, this is a bit of a mess, and I'm trying to understand the thought process, because maybe I missed something, but I felt like she should have been able to go in with a hand auger and delineate those 2 extra areas, and that's what I think we actually requested.
We're talking about areas 3 and 4, not.
Correct.
Right.
That's
1 and
how-
2, I'm
that's
not
how
talking
we-
about 1
yes,
and 2.
but that's
1 and 2.
how,
But that was my understanding, and that way, we're not bringing in an excavator and hauling things without
Right.
having some understanding of what we're doing.
He mentions Andrew mentions in the email, they could bring it in basically because it would speed it up, the
Okay.
delineation. If they're willing to remove the fill, then delineate it, as long as sediment controls are installed ahead of time and they don't underestimate the extent of the wetland.
Well, that's the issue with all of that, because once you start bringing in a backhoe, things kind of can't stop.
Right.
Yeah, and I really, I'm a little, like, betwixt and between now that, you know, Andrew's saying it's okay. I don't quite know what to tell you to do, but I don't know what to say, except I definitely wanted to see 2 and, it's 2 and 3? Am I getting the 3 and 4?
3 and 4.
3 and 4 delineated before we really started work.
Right.
And I don't know what your opinion is, but that was my opinion anyway. But I really thought we were going to know what those were first.
I think my takeaway from that walk was that where he found it with an auger, it may, or she would have begun it to do it that way, but I mean, it wasn't really spelled out by, you know, he made his recommendations. He doesn't really tell us how to go about things, but his recommendations were to have it delineated.
Right, and I think our direction was, sorry, they're talking so that way. But our direction was to have her delineate those. We didn't, this is something new. So it's really, I don't have a vote, but I have an opinion that I think she should delineate.
I think if you excavate this to delineate now, I think it could potentially cause even more of a mess.
That's what I'm
Unless,
afraid of.
I think you'd be better off, like the original plan was, work your way out. Restore number 2, restore number 1. If they want to excavate to delineate, that's fine, but everything else that way is done. We don't have to worry about that.
Compacting the soil was one of the biggest things that he mentioned too, the less compaction.
I understand. So you feel like we should
That's what.
allow what she's asking, is what you're saying?
Well, he was saying it's just that it's gonna take a long time. We already have this delay because of the surveyor.
Right.
So how long is long in terms of, how long would it take to do it with removing the fill? How long would it take to do without? Is it gonna be more than a month? I don't think so. So I personally think, and I'm like you, I'm betwixt and between,
I'm
but
just not sure.
I prefer to get it right and to know exactly what we have, even if it takes a little bit longer, given that we already have a delay with the survey.
I also think though, if you have one of those areas that's filled with boulders, you're gonna stick an auger in, you're never gonna get down.
That's
And
true.
at the end of the day, you're gonna.
And I
fill it-
haven't seen the site, so that's part of why I'm a little,
Yeah, I
I'm
mean-
hesitant, because if we really do need to remove, the rocks and the boulders to get to it, then, logically, it makes sense to do it. It's just, we need to make sure that it's done very carefully.
Mhm.
That's really my.
Well, and Andrew says that in his next sentence, that it's gotta be,
Experience there with,
in wetlands, yeah.
Yeah.
In your opinion, are there a lot of people who are experienced with that you
Now it's more
can
of a,
easily find?
probably more of a niche.
And almost
I'm
probably
sure there's
should be,
plenty around.
it should be probably overseen by someone from her shop who understands wetlands. That's what should really happen.
And I'm sure, I'm not gonna speak for you, but I'm sure she's gonna wanna be out on site when they're excavating it to do the delineation anyway,
You
so.
would-
100%, yeah.
Yeah, so to me, if there's somebody on site that understands what
Yeah.
they're doing, that should help.
Yeah.
That would be what we would do in my shop.
But, we're not gonna tell them what to do, but at least we can give them options, and they can choose whichever one. I just don't wanna say, nope, you have to use the auger,
Mhm.
and then Colin comes back before us, or Nicole comes back before us and says, I can't get the auger down, we need to bring an excavator.
I'm cool, I just,
Yeah.
I really was a little, I didn't understand why.
Yep.
And knowing that there might be interferences, that's a big deal. So I'm okay with that. And I do agree that we work on one end and move to the other.
Right, furthest away and work our way back towards the house.
I would also like to see the Riverfront Protection District showing on here. We do have a USGS listed map, listed river, and we have an intermittent river as well. And both of those should be on there, and that 200-foot protection district should show on the map. There's no reason for it not to be there, and we need to clearly have it on there with everything else. Just so that we are understanding where the limits of our jurisdiction are.
All right, before we get too far ahead.
Yeah.
As far as delineating areas 3 and 4, we're okay with them doing it either with an auger or bringing in heavy equipment to excavate and delineate.
With a reasonable level of documentation, I would, pictures and some.
And the material's
soil
gonna,
bores.
the material's either gonna have to be outside the 100-foot buffer or taken off-site.
Correct, and they're gonna have to come up with a storage area for us.
Right.
Well, if there's a spot on a property with 100-foot, within, outside the 100-foot buffer, yeah, otherwise they have to take it off-site.
So at this point, is the 100-foot buffer shown on there? I know the riverfront's not.
I don't believe.
I don't think
think
so.
so.
I think
No.
we need that too.
This is the owner's plan.
I think she must have it on the plan, is what I think.
Yeah, I don't think we have it.
No,
Is that bringing the wheel in?
I mean, this does have all the flags on it.
I couldn't see them. So
Yeah, they're,
I couldn't read them.
they're,
Run another copy, I have one here if you want.
Yeah, we have a copy. I think we just need something that's more
Easier to see.
easier
Yeah.
to see, like probably something without the
without the,
vegetation in the background.
right, like just the map and not the satellite image. If it hadn't been satellite, it would have been easier to read the flags, that's all.
Yeah, we just can't see
Yeah.
them all. I was having a heck of a time finding them
Just down.
Yeah.
because they're,
Yeah. It's so tiny.
they're so tiny. I'm old.
Well, not only that, but when you get into the vegetation colors, it kind of blends right in.
Clear on the top.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
up in here.
So,
So question, does this one show the 3 or 4 flags that were moved?
Say that again?
I'm looking
Does
at
this
that right
plan
now.
show the 3 to 4 flags that?
The new
Andrew-
flags?
I don't think so.
I didn't think it
No.
did.
I'm just wondering where those were.
All right, so as you walked in, the first impact area. So do, and it was up in here on this side. I don't,
Okay, it would be nice to know where that is, or have an updated, I guess if they update this, put in the riverfront in, put the buffer, update
So we see all the
Those
boundaries and it will help them too, because
Right, and
they need to figure out where they can stage their equipment and where we can stage the stockpile as they remove stuff. And so if we have all those.
if we have a
orders-
complete, with all the information, it's gonna cut the cost down for Mr. Havlin, because, I mean, every time we redo these maps, it's,
Yeah, and my guess is she probably has them, it's just probably
right,
she only gave us this.
right. Well, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, and I think those layers are pretty easy to put on anyway.
But like Tim and I were just looking at it. He's already got silk fence in 12-inch tubes, compost tubes over here.
Mhm.
So you might as well, I mean, probably should anyways, because of all the work that's been done, just run them right there before he excavates for the other two areas.
Yeah, both sides for
Yeah.
sure. If they choose to go that route,
Yeah,
because we're gonna give them the option
yeah,
of auger or
yeah.
machine cut.
Well, can't they do both?
Yeah.
Run into a rock area, use the machine?
It's up to them.
Mhm.
We can give them options, they can do whichever option they choose. Yeah, I don't wanna say, do the auger, and then the auger doesn't work, then we have to come back to us again, wait 2 more weeks to go in with the next excavator.
Right.
Right. My other big comment on this was there was a fairly blatant statement that the buffer zone did not need remediation. And I totally disagree with it. We have jurisdiction over 100, up to 100 feet of the buffer zone of a wetland, and we also have 200 feet jurisdiction. There's no work supposed to be done in a riverfront. And we do have jurisdiction. There was no permission to do this work, so we need to make sure the resource area is protected. It doesn't mean we necessarily need to restore 100 feet of buffer zone, but we do need some of that buffer zone restored, I believe, because they've taken down trees, they brought in fill, and I think that needs to be addressed. I think we're not just fixing the wetland, we need to fix the property. And
Yeah, I was puzzled by that
I
when
thought
I
it was
read
just an
that,
odd
because
statement.
it's true that there are performance standards for the actual wetlands and there's not for buffer, but that's referred to in the act if you submit an NOI. But when I checked, the DEP enforcement manual and the Wetlands Protection Act, part of that they cite is whoever does the violation has to restore the original condition of the property. So I'm a little puzzled by this statement that because there's no performance standards for buffer zones, then basically they're not going to do anything in the buffer.
And I brought a whole book for Matt. The buffer zone, I couldn't help myself. But I feel like it does need to be addressed. I would like them to address what they would suggest to do. But they've taken down trees and vegetation as well that was providing stormwater management out there. And, we need to make sure that we restore it enough so that we don't have some crazy flooding out there. And that, the vegetation's gonna grow back normally. And some of it might just be simple seeding, but I'd like to see them propose something to us. I didn't agree with that statement at all. I don't know I know what Lynn thinks, but I don't know what the rest of you think.
No, I agree.
And the last thing is we need to address, once we know where the survey is, I think we have private property. How are we going to address what happened on the private property? We can't deal with that right now because we just don't know. But we're going to need to deal with how we address if some restoration needs to happen there. Because there is that river there, so I'm a little concerned about that area. I have a lot to say, I guess. Did you have anything to say about the replication plan? Because that's your job.
Well, I mean, it looked like it was a good start, but I felt that I didn't have all the information I needed. I don't see where they're going to put the plantings exactly. When I read what they said about the buffer zone, I thought, okay, I mean, they need to address that before I actually get more into the nitty gritty and start to critique. Otherwise, it's a waste of my time.
Yeah, and Andrew had some comments too on the plantings.
Mhm. Oh, and I had a question on the plantings. They want to plant in the spring of 2023. And I was hoping that we would see plantings this fall, right? And we would want a 2-year growth of 75%, not a year. I'd love to see it a year, but I'd like to, typically the standard is 2 years.
Right.
I think we do not have an over replication at this point. Maybe we will change our bylaw so that we do, but right now we're 1-to-1. But I would like to see us plant sooner, just because I'm very concerned about, spring rains and everything. I understand that the spring is better, but I think we need at least some type of planting early. I don't think I'm missing the boat on that one, am I?
Nope.
Colin, do you know why she requested spring instead of fall? Maybe just thinking we wouldn't be ready for the
Even if
fall?
we planted some grass for,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
if we throw some grass down for
Yeah,
the,
just to
for the
stabilize
fall,
it.
Right, some,
and then do some real planting in the spring,
Right.
but I just don't wanna see it just be dirt for the next,
Yeah.
Yeah,
6 months.
she might have an answer for it, but.
Yeah, I don't
we-
know.
we-
I
yeah, we-
I
we
really
can-
don't know.
We can ask her.
Sure, without her here, unfortunately, we don't, she probably has answers that we just don't know.
Yeah.
right,
But I would just like to see some stabilization. I don't want the applicant to do all this work, and then all of a sudden, everything just,
stop,
Yeah.
it starts
Right.
washing away.
right.
Which has happened, we've seen it, so.
Fall's a better time to plant.
It is better, the things last longer in the fall, don't they?
Mhm.
That's why my husband planted grass in the fall, and, well, it was looking good until it's drought.
I think there's a saying, was it sleep, creep, and then spread or something like that? So like the first year you plant something, you don't see anything happening because it's all the root growth.
Right,
And the creep, it's starting to move beyond to actual stuff and then explodes
Right.
at that point. So I'd like that creep to begin, or sorry, the sleep to begin this year rather than wait till the spring. I don't know how much grass is going to stabilize things through the winter.
well, I mean, at least it'd be better than having nothing out there at all, like Kathy said. I mean, I don't think that with the delay in getting the surveyed, that's not even nailed down yet. So, I mean, put something down temporarily of,
Right, but, hopefully we can get the survey by the end of September, and then get out there at the beginning of October, and they should be able to plant. I mean, it doesn't really get cold until November or December. I think we just need to keep an eye on it, and unfortunately, the surveying is painful at this
Yeah.
point in time, sorry,
right.
because we all would like to see it, I think, fixed now.
Mhm.
Although this is
Maybe that's why she's saying spring too, is because of the lead time of the surveyor.
It could be, I
Yeah.
don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm still, I think we still are gonna need to do something to make sure it gets stabilized for that whole winter.
Mhm.
And, we've had some nasty Marches and Aprils, and before they get out there, it could just be a really big mess out there.
Mhm.
So, I'd like to see us do something at least. Hopefully the silt fences will help, but,
Well, the silt fence is in.
yeah, hopefully that will help,
With the compost tube.
yeah, but still. Do a lot of work, I just don't wanna see it messed up.
So an area to the compost tube is down and all
Nope,
set? No,
silt fence is in.
silt fence is in.
The compost tube is gonna go in when they start mucking everything out.
Right,
Okay.
because they're gonna work
Yeah.
the funnels,
Okay,
and then they'll
and
put
then
it in as
they'll
they go
drag
along.
it in and then, right. I know in the walk, we did discuss, the plantings, red maples. They also mentioned swamp tupelos, which I didn't read in her thing. She just put sweet pepper bush and then shrubs planted along the edges of the wetland restoration.
Gene, she has black tupelos called out in both of them. I don't know if that's
Oh, mine didn't say that.
already on the
Replacement
actual.
plan? I didn't get that
I
far.
don't get that.
So it's not, Should be at the end of it.
The very last two
Very
trees.
I didn't get that
Oh,
far.
I didn't
Oh,
get
thank
that.
you. I
You're
did not get that far.
Very end.
Again, I was trying to squeeze this in this afternoon, and I'm like, I didn't get to read the whole, oh, that's good.
It is kind of, I see what he's saying now about how it's like this
Oh, it's all
line
one side.
on one side.
Oh,
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah, it looks like, okay, so there's a big cap right on the last page.
It's a little too even, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, black Tupelo. Why did I write swamp? I had that in my notes. Swamp.
So the idea here was to just put plants on the outside and let everything fill in the middle?
I don't understand. I,
I don't understand why there's, let's see, Andrew mentioned something in his email about that.
He said, yeah, he said that area number 2 is good, just as long as it meets the spacing requirements.
Okay.
Area number 1, he had the comment about all the plants and shrubs on one side.
mhm.
Yeah, wetland impact 1.
That's like weird. Okay, so they need to follow the tree line.
Right.
It's not clear to me, but they are.
Mm.
We'll provide them with the DP letter, right, so
Right.
they'll have what
Mhm.
Andrew said. I'm sorry. I should do it.
Yeah.
So Paula, we just went through a lot of things. Are we somebody gonna
Summarize.
summarize it and get it to,
Send Nicole an email.
are you gonna do that, or do you want one of us to do it? What would you like?
I'll watch the meeting after tomorrow and
Just do it?
Yeah.
All right. If you need
I wrote
help,
some
just
stuff
let us know.
down. Yep.
That's all. I think it will be helpful if we can get that information from her. And we would like it at the next meeting.
Yeah. That was a conversation I had. I said we'd discuss tonight. If you have any comments, I'll send them off to her and
That's all.
That's all I have.
Yeah, that's all I got. Just gotta continue the meeting, I guess.
you want to make a motion to continue to the next meeting?
I'll make a motion then to continue 0 Hancock Street,
Enforcement order
enforcement order for 0 Hancock Street.
I'll second,
for the August 23rd.
August 23rd. Meeting.
August 23rd meeting.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. There we go. Go see this one.
I'll leave.
Don't you love sitting next to us?
She was out for her this email too, so she has it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Yes.
All right, next up.
Thank you for keeping us up to date on everything too, I appreciate
I'm
it.
trying.
No, I really appreciate it, because I'm looking at the letter and I'm going, well, obviously this is It's not an easy task to get a land surveyor out there.
Yeah, I knew it was gonna be hard, I had no idea it was gonna be like this.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give them money, you know?
Yeah.
Like, in my business, people ask to give me money, I respond to them, you know? Thank you, guys.
Thank
Have a good one.
You too.
All right, next up is SE 084-518, request for order of conditions extension located at SS McHugh Circle. And that is the actual,
Yeah, we were just having that, we're like, is that a misprint?
Do you know why they do that instead of 0 or?
I had no idea that was, were you on the board for that one, Kathy, or no, back in 2018?
So, when did their orders of condition expire?
They actually expire in 6 months, but the property is changing owners, so they wanted to get this done before that takes place of that.
What are they asking for an extension? How long?
Did they specify?
Yeah, we can give them up to 3 years,
Yeah,
but because they're already, I'd be inclined to give them a year rather than 3 within my recommendation. And if they need more, they can come
come
back.
back, yep.
I would agree with that.
We have a new fee for that, right?
Oh, yeah, we have the new fees that were effective
Well, they
on.
came in before,
Before August
Okay.
1st. Okay.
So they have the old
Right.
right?
Yep.
Okay, there is a fee. Okay.
Mhm.
has that gone live yet, the new fees?
I'm sorry, Tony, I didn't hear you. Could you say that
I'm
again?
waiting for a list from Rockland right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, I think I have one.
I had sent you an email earlier today.
Oh, I wished I had known. I would have brought it because
I figured you might bring it tonight.
Oh, my goodness,
Right.
I didn't even check, but I can get it for you, and as soon as I get it, I'll give it to you. Oh, wow. Yeah, because I saved them all.
All right, so I want to make a motion to grant the request for an extension?
I'll make a motion to extend SE 084-518 for 1 year, SS McHugh Circle.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oops. Spirit, right?
All right, next up, SE 084-552, request for order of conditions extension located at 500 Chestnut Street.
Okay, so when did their orders expire?
I looked it up and it looked like they filed in 2018.
Yeah,
So they're expired?
It's expired.
no, because there was a COVID extension for
Oh,
a year
that's
and a half,
Okay,
so.
so when do they expire?
6 months.
6 months from now? Okay,
And I know, back in March, Russ and I did a site walk up there based on a complaint, and everything looked good, all the erosion control was up, in good working order.
is the restoration done?
That I don't know. I just looked, we were there to look at erosion control.
Okay, just my comment would be that, they need 2 years for the restoration, so they may have to come back if they don't have it done. They should have done it first, but I don't know.
I don't know the history of this site.
I don't know.
I mean, without looking at, there was growth there, but without seeing a plan, I'm not gonna say,
No, I know,
Yes
I
or no?
understand. I'm just asking.
yeah.
I would suggest the same thing. Let's give them a year and let them come back and ask for more if they need it.
What is the history? I mean, it looks like you had to go out there, that there was a restoration, like what happened?
They filed, and they filed a couple of things because they had to do some utilities to get in there. And they filed to put in the industrial park, and they did have a restoration area. They did fill in a wetland. And I believe there was a complaint, which is why Paul went out.
Yep.
And took a look, and everything was to order from what
We
Paul saw.
walked the whole perimeter.
Yeah, and so, they just, they just need to finish, I think, from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that they follow whatever we ask them for ordinance conditions. But I do know there was a wetland filling, I believe, up there, is my recollection. And so, I would say give them a year, and if they didn't ask for more, we should just give them a year and let them come back.
So it was a year from today,
I
they'll
would say
have
a year
6
from when
months
it's
or a year from
expired.
the time it expires.
When it expires, so they've got a year and a half.
Right, 18 months. Sounds reasonable to me.
Any other comments? Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to extend the order of conditions for SC 084-552,
Need a second?
1 year, sorry.
Well,
So for
from
1
the
year from the
expiration
date of
date.
expiration.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? All right, next up, discussion, possible vote on NOI checklist with possible revision. I know Tony was starting to put the NOI checklist online, and she had a couple comments. I told her to mark up what she wanted to change and discuss it with the board.
I have a suggestion. Would you consider splitting your NOI checklist into a separate thing? One for administrative purpose and then one for plan purpose?
Absolutely.
Because if you're reading it, it does sound really, really congested and really, when you look at it, you think that like, you guys know this stuff, but people don't know this stuff. It gets confusing. People get lost.
Point taken.
So it would be easier to split them and just one as a straight plan list and one as a straight separate checklist, in my opinion.
I believe that's a very good point.
That's fine with us, I don't see
And
any
I
problem,
found-
as long as we're not changing anything,
I mean,
it's fine.
if that was
If it
the
makes it
only,
easier for somebody,
We already
go
done it?
for it.
Not fully. I have half of it done.
all right.
Yeah,
And I think it did kind of say, this is administrative, and then it went on to,
It's all one big doc.
yeah, so
Right, I
you
think
can.
she's trying to make it.
Right. So this would be
it's
applicant,
more palatable.
the applicant plan list, checklist,
Yeah.
right? No, it makes sense.
Yes, it's fine.
Sure.
Fine, whatever
So do
makes
we
you-
want to, how do we want to,
I would say that we continue having the checklist available and use what we approved.
It's
And
still
it-
not live.
You didn't post it?
It hasn't been live. I don't have the doc. I've been rewriting the doc for this purpose. That's why I'm
yeah.
asking if it's all right if I split it and we prolong this an additional month. And then I can go live in a month with it.
Okay, so we,
I have it in a Word doc for you. that's what, remember when you
no,
had
that's not what she's saying. She wants to basically split it in half. She has
Oh, yeah.
she has the Word document, she just wants to
I'm almost
simplify
done with it.
Yeah.
It should be done for the next meeting. I just want to give it an additional week and we'll tack an extra month on to the trial period.
So do we want
Okay.
to, how do we want to determine who's going to look at the plans and everything to make sure that that portion, or that half is up to speed? Do we want to
I
pick
will
somebody
volunteer
or?
to take a look and maybe we have 2 checkers, maybe. But I'm,
If you pick it,
I actually
so
worked on it
I'll
before
volunteer
so
to.
that I would, and I've actually gone through the checklist recently because when we did, what project did I went through? Oh, Hancock Street. And I found it really useful.
Yep.
But I went through it, so I think maybe me and somebody else taking a look at it.
I would also like to be able to sit there right beside you and go through them together so I could get a better feel for a lot of what.
Well, you can't,
No, I know I can't, but I'm saying maybe perhaps we can have some sort of review process so we can all familiarize ourselves with this
Maybe at a meeting.
at a meeting.
At a meeting, and once
We
we're
can
done.
take time at the end of a meeting and just kind of take what she found and go through it and say, this is what I found, this is how I found it, you know.
My guess is that if she's just splitting it. there
Right,
shouldn't
I
be
mean,
whole
that's
lot
not a
of
big
changes.
deal. I mean, all you do is you just copy paste that into another doc and just leave that one separate.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I just think the more people you have looking at the plans beforehand, then you get into a gray area where you could get into an open meeting. law.
No. What I'm saying is like, once that either Kathy or Lynn has gone through it and checked it, they could actually go through it with all of us present so we could get a feel for it as well.
Oh, you're saying like on the first one that comes through?
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be fun.
It also might be that when we go through it, we realize, oops,
We might
forgot
want to
this,
edit
or
something or add
this-
something or take
Why do
away.
we have this? This doesn't make sense.
Right.
It
So
doesn't
take it
rewrite
away.
or and having everybody, but I think we need to get one consistent document. So Lynn and I will do the check.
Can we
after.
present it too on the?
Yeah, on the new board.
Ooh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. There you go.
The thing is, you don't want to pick apart somebody's plan on in a meeting.
Oh, yeah,
For
yeah.
everybody to see.
Well, you know, there's
Yeah.
actually one, in one of the math classes we took, they had an example of,
But we could just walk through it and talk about it.
right,
It would be good to make sure everybody's familiar with it, that's all. I
I mean-
think what Jean's just trying to say is let's all become familiar with it so we know what's in it.
Yep.
And then maybe we all do our own homework afterwards
Mhm.
with, something that comes up that is appropriate.
Mhm.
Like I found 402 Roland a perfect example for me.
Mhm.
And it was helpful because it made me think of everything right away rather than,
Yeah.
coming up with stuff a couple
Right.
of days later. So,
It's gonna be good for us, it'll be good for the applicants too, because then we'll have it all in one big giant package instead of, oops.
But I think
do we need to take a vote to extend? how
we'll
long
continue
it's
with the
gonna-
next meeting because she's not gonna have it ready till then anyway.
Okay.
But I think whoever is gonna review it from the board, it should be somebody, it should be that person's job for the year. And their contact information should be provided to the applicant. That way, if they have any questions, there's always that
Okay.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
correspondence. That way, if there's any questions, it's,
Right, and if that be the case, then there's one person to contact directly, and then there's a backup person in case someone's unavailable for whatever reason.
Mhm.
Makes sense. That's a good idea. Sorry.
so we'll just continue that and decide who we wanna pick to look at those at the next meeting. And
Sounds good.
so I make a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion to continue the discussion and possible vote on notice of intent checklist to the August 23rd meeting.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up, new business, discussion on future meeting dates. Is there any time we want to have a little bit of a lull in our meetings?
I was gonna actually suggest.
We've been doing more than two a month.
Right,
Right.
the thing that we used to do on Concord is when we have a filing, we have only a certain amount of time to
Yep.
hold the hearing, like we have 21 days. So that if we get a notice of intent, we're kind of screwed. We have to have a meeting. But if we don't, and, we can kind of see that we're not getting one, we could like go to a month, have a meeting once a month. And if it starts to, it's kind of, I think it's gonna be up to the chair's discretion, is usually what we used to do, because you gotta call it, of whether we got a filing or not. But right now, we don't, on August 23rd, if we don't see that we have an, notice of intent, we could actually ask all those applicants to move to the second meeting date in September instead of the first, especially with the Labor Day being in there.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
But that's what we used to do. And so that gave us a break on occasion. But sometimes it gets busy. And then, but
Yeah.
December often gets really slow.
That's when I was
That's
gonna
what I would
say
suggest
that
too, yeah.
December and January, and those are the months where
if we do a meeting the first Tuesday in December, then
then you might not have to, but it depends on, unfortunately, it's when people file.
yeah,
So if you get a request for determination or a notice of intent, then you have a timeline that you have to meet. But if we don't have that, what do you think, Tony?
I would suggest December to take off, in my opinion, because your second meeting falls on Christmas and the town hall will be closed, so it will be the first thing we come back to as a meeting.
Right.
So it might give you that nice break.
Right, but
Unless somebody files an NOI in
We'll
the
close
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah,
state,
yeah,
the
yeah.
day after.
second week of.
well, and we'll have to call it, but
Right.
I don't think that there's a problem if you see that we're getting slow in October, for example,
Yep.
Right.
and then we really only need one meeting.
Mhm.
No, I know we're not gonna be able to do it anytime soon, because we have stuff that is gonna,
Yeah, but you understand my
Yep.
my drift is that I think that you, Paul, you have that discretion.
Yep.
It's just the regulatory timeframe. But we
Right.
need to think about it when we are, like tonight, we moved everything to the 23rd. If we had had a conversation, maybe we would have moved it all to the 30th. So, it's that kind of thing.
yep. All right, next up, discussion on conservation supplies. I know there's been some discussion about purchasing a Dutch auger and 2 sheets of the Munsell chart. I know there's a training on Thursday at 11 o'clock at Ames Knoll.
Right.
Oh, that's Friday, okay. So I don't know if we want to table this until everybody that goes up and does that training has a chance to experience it, see what it's all about.
That makes sense.
I've reached out to a couple other towns, all that have conservation agents. I would say 33% have an auger. The other percentage, they put the onus on the applicant. They'll do a site walk, and they will, Kathy will say, I think might be wetlands over here.
It would have been nice
Well,
when we were
maybe-
out at Zero Summer that the gentleman had the auger with him, because we could have done that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know,
Even with 4454 Linwood Street, I mean, you walked in, you saw the flags, and you're like, okay, that looks really good. But as Tim, when we went with Andrew, I mean, just to see what he did and bringing up the samples and laying them out, you can clearly see. I mean, and to me, we're not scientists by no means, but it's pretty obvious when he shows you how it's done. We don't know all the planes, we don't know all the little nuances that go along with analyzing soil, but we can clearly see a dark gray soil is a hydric soil versus the upland, which is colorful.
but it would be nice if the applicants actually did
Yeah.
it for us.
Yeah.
It's probably something we should,
Put into the checklist, I mean, I don't
or
know.
ask them to do when
Right.
they come for a site visit.
Right.
And one of the other things is, if we were to get an auger and we were to use the auger, I actually was talking to one of the municipalities that has one, and I asked the question, I said, what do you do for dig safe? Because that's a whole, Tim knows, that's a whole, anytime you put the tip of a shovel in the ground, you were supposed to call dig safe, or else you're in violation of DPU safety protocols. And if, I mean, 99.9% of the time, you're never gonna break anything, but that small fraction of percentage that you do, whoever's operating that auger and breaks something, you'll get fined for it.
Okay, but just for an example, like 0 Hancock Street right now, I mean, Nicole has delineated and put flags in the ground saying this is where the wetlands are. She's already done that with an auger. Would she have needed approval to do that when she presented it to us?
Is that right? She should.
Typically, when we,
That's not
Sorry.
our question to ask, though.
right, when we do digging at my work, we are required to follow the protocols. However, hand digging is allowed, but I'm not saying augers, I'm saying hand digging. We hear it.
With a shovel?
No, not even with a shovel.
But we have our own protocols.
Yep.
Every company has a protocol. We do vacuum X a lot.
Well, that's the best way to do it.
Right, right. We're talking very shallow, but I'll try to pull that from work to see what they have to say. Did you ask, we can ask Andrew, can't we? What
Yeah, well, that would be a good question for him on
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah, 'cause I would
I'll
like
ask
to-
him that.
I would like to know that.
But the agent I talked to, they didn't even, when I told them about dig safe, they looked at me like I had 2 heads.
Ah.
So they assume it's for when you're digging a road out in the street, that's when you're supposed to call.
Now, on 0 Summer Street, when we looked at her map there, it did have a dig safe
Probably.
notation on it.
Yeah, well, they've done a lot of work up there,
Yeah.
so I would think they did.
Yeah.
Because they've been looking for.
No, I was just asking on the other property because I wasn't sure. I mean, I didn't even really look at it to see if there was anything on there.
But you dig on your own property.
He's
You're
yeah,
supposed
still
to call.
supposed to.
Well, I'm in trouble in my backyard.
You're on record, don't say anything.
Buried my cat out there.
And as far as the dig safe, there's training that you have to take, and they offer it. I think it's usually they do it every March.
To do it yourself, or
No,
I thought you
to
just
be
like,
trained.
I
be
thought
trained
you
to
like
do it.
called them up and said,
But you
Hey.
need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
okay.
Not just call dig safe. there's
Yeah,
a
it's a
whole,
color coding chart of all the different utilities, what they are, what they should be depth-wise, and all kinds of stuff you really need to know for sure before you start digging.
Right, but say like just me, the normal property owner, and I'm in my backyard, and I say, I wanna call Dig Safe because, I'm gonna put in a pool. So they come down, they look at it, or whatever they do, they look on their maps to see if there's any lines in my backyard, and if they say no, is that good enough?
after 72 business hours,
So it takes 72 hours to get
Doesn't a
there.
private company though do like the property itself, not like the street?
whoever's excavating is doing it. So if I call in a dig safe, my company, and I have Tim come in and do water services for me, and Tim hits something, assuming that he's on my dig safe ticket, he breaks it, I'll probably get in trouble because I didn't put him on as a subcontractor on my dig safe, but he's gonna get in trouble for not having a dig safe.
Yeah, I'm supposed to have my own.
Every person that does their job on that site needs to either be a subcontractor listed on the dig safe ticket or calling their own.
So with the commissions that you talk to that do have augers, I mean, what is their protocol?
I don't know.
Oh,
Well, I'm sorry, one of them, they didn't have protocol for dig safe.
What if somebody gets hurt though? God forbid, you know?
Yeah,
Oh, like if you jam an auger in the ground and you.
Yeah, and that thing spins you for a loop.
it's hard to twist, but
Yeah,
then
it's very
I don't have
manual.
Well, if
that
you
much
go
of
into
a
the training on
strength.
Friday, you'll see
yeah,
how it works anyways.
it's like taking a big corkscrew.
Once you get down to a certain depth, it gets really hard to turn that thing. So it's possible you can get hurt, and then that does bring up issues. But that would happen anyway at a site.
I mean, that would be
You
the
just
same
trip over
when you
your
go on
feet.
a sidewalk if you tripped and fall.
Yeah, what about a sidewalk? What if somebody, that brings up another question, what if somebody gets hurt? Who's liable then?
Tony?
Is it a town employee?
If one of
or-
us does a site walk,
Yeah, say you're walking out in the woods and you trip, break an ankle, or twist an ankle, or
We've done that.
who's responsible at that point?
file an accident report. or
Because
injury
you're
report.
an employee.
And that's why I let Tim do all the heavy walking down in the depth, because I won't do it. I know my limitations. So, all right, so let's ask Andrew the questions Friday. And again, I will be there to take the notes and comment the questions.
Enjoy, guys.
It's-
Get ready to get
yeah,
dirty.
Yeah. Bug spray, I'll bring some.
Bring bug spray.
Just don't be as humid out there on Friday.
Say what?
Won't be as humid out there on Friday.
Thank goodness.
All right, next up, building permits and site visits. There's a permit for, was it 5 Karen Lane I signed today for a deck. Site visits, today Tim and I visited 95 Nile Street.
Shall I recuse myself, Mr. Chairman, right now? Because I live here on that street.
So they're gonna come before us, they put a patio in without coming before us. They also wanna do some additional work, which they have stopped doing. Tim and I recommended that they come before us with an NOI before they do anything else on the property. There's a, I don't know, what size is it, like 20 inch? Probably, maybe 18 or 20 inch
24,
steel
something like
pipe
that, yeah.
going across the perennial stream that runs out from,
Brockton Ave.
154 Brockton Ave.
Oh, jeez.
It's falling pretty nice today.
Yeah, it was actually.
And
Um,
there's no rain.
Well, we got a little bit today, but,
Yeah, but this was
Yeah.
before, right?
so they laid out some 3/4 inch crushed stone. They made like a stairway towards the house. We told them, till they come in with the NOI, put some compost tube or, straw wattles up, just to prevent any of that stone from washing into the stream. And, we told them, whatever you wanna do, hire an engineer to, show everything you potentially would like to do here. And
Isn't it a riverfront, like, aren't we at a perennial river?
Mhm.
they're not actually allowed to do anything within 100 feet of the river, and it's already altered. I mean, the backyard is altered because there's a yard, but they're really not allowed to do much, because in that 100-foot zone, you're not allowed to do anything in the riverfront. If you read the regs for a perennial stream.
I thought there were some exemption for the
There's an
50
exemption.
50 feet.
Yeah, deck sheds,
Oh.
patios, pools, any accessories to the original single-family house.
That's
would be
a
50
buff-
feet.
That's a buffer, that's a 100-foot buffer zone thing, isn't it? I don't
No, I
think,
think there's
No, I don't
something in
think
the,
there is a revamp, like you can, if something's developed, you can do a piece of it. I'll take another look.
well, that's why I told them to come in,
Yeah,
show us what you want to do, and
Did
take
they
it from there.
do the patio within 50 feet?
yeah, I drove by from the sidewalk and it looks like it's right beside
20
the
feet,
river.
Yeah, 20 feet probably
Yeah.
from a corner of it.
So we already got on one applicant's case for building right next to riverfront. Now we have another, like, literally next door.
Yeah, kind of behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I told them to come in for an NOI.
Yep, that's the right answer.
Yeah.
But then,
Then we take it from there. Is that it for site visits? I need you guys at Summer Street.
we
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about
for-
this last time.
Yeah, I had a site visit with Mark over at Zero Hancock.
Yeah, that's right.
Went well. I don't know if
Summer,
anybody's
Zero
met
no,
Mark.
Zero
Summer?
Summer, Zero Summer.
Zero Summer, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
yes, Zero
Okay.
Summer.
I was on vacation, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's met Mark Manganiello, but he was a really good guy. Thorough, had a Dutch auger, which was great.
Good.
And we went around and checked all the flags that we discussed out there and had issues with. He found some discrepancies, which I think he's working with Goddard in rectifying. I saw some note about a sidewalk with them meeting too.
Yeah, I thought I saw something like that.
Is that next week? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I think it's Tuesday.
Okay. But yeah, I felt comfortable with Mark. I think he did a great job. He was thorough. We were out there for hours. Yeah, it was good.
That's
Really
good
good.
news.
No poison cement, by the way.
Oh, it's
Good.
No regular cement.
Oh, good.
Yep, that was the way to get to the phone. Under those.
Yeah, I was just so
I,
worried you were gonna get infected.
I know.
I was like, no,
I went
don't go
home
there.
and I looked at I was like looking at my cement, I'm like, I don't know if they're the same leaves. I hope he's okay.
I know.
So I do have a question, when you were out there with Mark and
Yes.
that intermittent stream, were they able to, what is the width on that intermittent, do you know?
That he didn't discuss.
Okay.
We did find, you know what, we did find is a monitoring well out there. I didn't know if anybody knew of that.
Oh,
Just
interesting.
monitoring well.
It was a monitoring well, not a groundwater
No,
well.
that was a monitoring well, and then Mark had thought he had seen another one on the property at some point. I only saw the one when I was out there, but there's definitely monitoring
I'll
wells
take a
there.
look at the database, or the house waste and see if there's, some reason they were out there.
Well, okay, so dumb question. What does that mean, to have a monitoring well?
It basically checks the soil out to make sure it's not a 21E, which is a contaminated site, or it monitors a 21E.
Yeah, so we put them in when we suspect that there's contamination at a site. So if you think that there's, I say there was arsenic, somebody, put a lot of arsenic out there. And you would test, you would put the well in at the groundwater level to see if there's arsenic there.
I thought you were saying there was arsenic there.
No, I'm just saying if there was. I tried to take something innocuous, basically,
Yeah.
because typically that's not something. But you could, gasoline, there's lots of reasons why you might. But I'll take a look and see if anybody's reported it on the 21E list, which is the hazardous waste site list for Massachusetts.
They don't look that old either, so I don't know if it's something the applicant might have done
They might have done
due
some,
diligence on for themselves.
sometimes we do like site assessments of sites to make sure that they're not contaminated, just before we start building, so that that's not untypical either.
Okay.
And we might be able to ask them that.
Right.
And did you get to go closer to the pond?
Mhm.
On the other side from the road, did you notice if there was like a steep slope?
It was
Heading
sloped,
down?
yeah, it was sloped, and she had the flags on the upper bank. And Mark was comfortable with that line.
Okay.
So he took the auger and did the samples and confirmed upland versus hydric?
Yes, and then we went, I don't have the plan in front of me, but we went along the train tracks. There was an area that I had some discrepancies, and there was a couple he had in there, so I know that was one other area that was gonna get revamped on the plans.
Super. That's great, Tim.
Thank you.
I can't remember if there was anything else on that one. It was pretty straightforward over there.
Well, I think one of the things that, when I read his review, I had mentioned in an email to him, I said, I don't have specific questions, but I think it was the language he used when he said, it looks pretty accurate. I'm saying that, I'm not sure the word he used, and that kind of concerned me, because I'm like, well, it should be accurate.
You mean Mark said that?
Yeah.
He had mentioned there was either the plan was right and the flagging wasn't, or vice versa, but either way, he said that if Goddard was gonna have to rectify
Okay,
one of
all right.
And that was, I think, what's going on now.
All right, because I'm like looking at it and going,
Great.
And he took off duplicate flags while he was out there. He added flags.
oh, yeah,
the correct
because that was
numbers.
one of the things that you brought up at the first, when we went in on the deep side.
Yes.
You said there was some questions about
Yep.
the flag.
Yeah, and we went right in there first, and basically the same sidewalk we did, we kind of followed the same path, and he was pretty thorough.
Good.
Thank you.
to hear.
And then on Thursday, 5 o'clock is the sidewalk over 402 Groveland Street / Linwood Street.
Okay, and I actually wrote you a note that, they did put the FEMA flood plan on
Yeah.
there. Can we get them to do that before the sidewalk? Because it would be nice to have it for the sidewalk. So it's 5 PM?
Yeah.
And where are we meeting?
What's the weather
Are we meeting on Groveland or are we meeting on Linwood?
Linwood, I would say, because that's where they want to
Yeah.
go in
Okay.
from. However, like Lynn had just said, if you look at the forecast for this coming week, it's thunderstorms on Thursday,
Check again.
70% chance of rain. So I know we got the letter from Mr. Riley.
Yep.
Giving us permission, so if we have to postpone it,
Oh,
Well, I'm hoping that we go with the applicant was gonna, the consultant was gonna come with us, I think.
oh, was he?
Yeah, she.
I want to make a comment about that permission letter.
Right, I've got it right here. However, after construction is commenced, I'll say we ask that the owner be notified in advance. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Well,
because
it's
if you have
safety.
construction equipment,
Right.
you don't want to.
I understand the safety thing, but one of the things they said in the MACC classes is that you keep them honest. If you say, my conservation agent is gonna come anytime,
Mhm.
they're more likely to look at the order of conditions and go, okay, we're gonna make sure that,
So we can
Fine.
actually put that into our order of conditions as well, correct?
but it's in
Yeah,
this
but-
email.
Yeah.
Right.
Here, they're already kind of establishing that that's not what they want. And I understand, I'm all for safety and risks and everything like that, but,
Which is fine, but if construction's going on, you can
show up.
show up,
Right.
don't enter the site,
Mhm.
call the applicant, say, we're here, we wanna,
You want to take a look?
we got half inch of rain today, we wanna make sure your erosion control's up to snuff.
Right.
Sounds fair.
It's the same thing, if you walk onto a construction site, nobody knows who you are, nobody knows you're there.
You just don't do it.
Yeah.
You have to announce yourself when you're there before you start walking on.
Well, sure, I'm just it just,
I understand your point.
do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I did.
No, I do, I completely understand your
Okay.
point.
We got that for site visits. All right. Approval of meeting minutes.
Oh, did we decide the weather?
I don't have my phone right
I think we're gonna have to
Play-
call it.
Play it by ear.
Okay. And if we do it, we're gonna do the Linwood entrance.
That makes sense,
Yeah.
because that's what we need to see.
Right, where it's gonna be
And it sounded
disturbed.
like getting in from Groveland was gonna be miserable.
Horrendous. You're even crossing deeper.
That's wetter over there.
Still saying rain, showers in the morning, cloudy in the afternoon, okay.
Oh,
That would be all right.
That
That's
would be all
better.
right. And the weather should be at least cooler.
Yes, high is 74, so
Oh,
that should be
nice.
good. You can wear your long sleeves and stuff and not feel too hot.
All right, everybody get a chance to look at the July 18th minutes?
I did, and I have a few, I'm sorry, Tony, again, I apologize for the last minute, but I just picked this up today. There were a couple of things in here as it pertains to,
What one are you looking at?
the 18th, July.
Are there two or one copy? Because there's.
She's got the
That's
staple
the
one
one,
in
no,
front of
that's the
her.
one.
The staple.
Yep.
I did state that some of the flagging was done incorrectly, not the flagging was done incorrectly. I hate to pick on little words, but, and also when Andrew was there, he made it very clear that it's not what he wants, it's his recommendations to the commission. So I would just strike out would like and just put in Mr. Point recommended to have these areas delineated.
So you can give her that copy.
Right, I can definitely give you this.
Here's the changes here.
Okay. Also, when the core samplings were done to determine the wetland soils, he did make it a point. He did ask me if I put it in my notes, and I said I didn't, but I mentioned it at the meeting, that when he did pull the hydric soils from that area number 3, he showed them to Nicole and asked her if she agreed. So he wasn't making the determination, he was making it with her on the wetland soils. And I think that just needs to be put in there because, again, he makes recommendations and he will have the scientists confirm or deny what his findings, what he suspects. So I just thought, I can actually give this right down here right now if you'd like. There you go.
So why don't you make a motion with those changes?
Oh, I'd like to make a motion for those changes, please, for the July
To
8th.
approve the minutes.
To approve the minutes
Approve the minutes with the changes.
with the changes. Thank you, everyone.
There was a second?
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next up, the meeting minutes for July 26th. I don't see anything in here about asking for the second 12-inch pipe.
Oh, that's right.
Upgrading of the one that's shown on the plan.
I think I also mentioned something about not using hay.
Straw was better. It doesn't use
Yeah.
seeds, right?
Yeah, but that'll be something we put into the conditions anyway.
Being quickly, but there's a line that says Mr. Bunker stated that these, but it doesn't have anything else.
It probably would, don't it?
Yeah, what did you say, Paul?
Yeah, so I just having the requested it's additional 12-inch RC upgrading of the one shown on the plan. Oh, that's perfect. I don't know if I have enough time reading my own handwriting.
Hmm.
Can you read this one, please?
Oh, sure, I'm sorry, I do print very tiny print. It says, let me core sampling in one of the areas determined wetland soils. Soil sample was hydric and confirmed with Mr. Haviland's wetland scientist.
I did, on the July 26th one, you put on the, about the 12-inch pipe. Okay. Anybody have anything else for the July 26th meeting?
Sure.
Someone want to make a motion to approve the minutes for July 26th with the changes about the drain pipe?
I'm gonna abstain.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the July 26, 2022 minutes with the changes made.
In a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I know, that's what abstain.
Correspondence, I think we went through it all with the items on the agenda. Is there anything else? All right, so I want to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
In a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.